Coming up on Arirang News. President Yoon arrives in Hawaii ahead of the NATO Summit in Washington, D.C. later this week. He honored veterans who fought during the Korean War at the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific and met with overseas Korean residents in Hawaii. Ahead of the NATO summit, Russia conducted a massive aerial attack across Ukraine on Monday, hitting buildings including the main children's hospital in the capital Kyiv. The UN Security Council is set to hold an emergency meeting. A total of 144 France-bound Olympians gathered at Olympic Park in Seoul to hold a team launch ceremony. With the 33rd Summer Olympics just a little more than 2 weeks away, South Korea aims to win at least 5 gold medals this time. Welcome to our 9 p.m. edition of Arirang News. I'm Kim Bu-kyung. President Yoon Suk-yeol began his trip to Hawaii by visiting a symbolic memorial cemetery where he paid his respects to Korean War veterans. This aligns with his visit to the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command set for tomorrow as stakes are high on the Korean Peninsula. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports from on the ground.
Kicking off his U.S. trip in Hawaii on Monday, President Yoon Suk-yeol visited the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific, also informally known as the Punch Bowl. Around 10,000 Korean War veterans and their families have been laid to rest there, including Benjamin Wilson, who received a U.S. Medal of Honor for his courageous actions during the war.
President Yoon expressed the highest respect for the noble sacrifice and dedication of the U.S. veterans who willingly gave their lives for the freedom and peace of South Korea when the fate of the nation was at stake over 70 years ago.
This could be seen as a build-up to the main reason he's stopping by Hawaii before heading to Washington, D.C. for the NATO Summit. President Yoon, on day 2 of his trip, will visit the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command here in Honolulu, where he'll be briefed by the commander regarding ongoing security issues in the region. It's the first time for a South Korean president to visit the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command since it changed its name from the Pacific Command back in 2018. And if you count the Pacific Command as well, it's the first time in 29 years.
U.S. INDOPACOM covers the Indo-Pacific region, 52% of the Earth's surface, and has the largest responsibility among 6 regional unified combatant commands. U.S. Forces Korea is also under this command, so it has a pivotal role in peace on the Korean Peninsula.
Meanwhile, the largest daily newspaper in Hawaii, the Honolulu Star-Advertiser, had President Yoon's visit on its first page this morning, emphasizing his visit to the U.S. INDOPACOM. The paper focused on regional security issues, especially with Russia and North Korea's strengthened military cooperation as well as Russia and China's naval cooperation. Also, while in Hawaii, President Yoon took the time to meet overseas Koreans. Hawaii is where the first South Korean immigrants moved to 120 years ago to start the history of Korean Americans. He showed his appreciation for them and vowed to better support overseas Koreans going forward. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, Honolulu.
Up next, our senior correspondent Oh Soo-young takes a closer look at the significance of the president's upcoming trip to the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, as we just heard.
President Yoon Suk-yeol will signal South Korea's commitment to enhancing regional and global security as North Korea and Russia's military collaboration threatens peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. As President Yoon travels to Washington, D.C. for the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's annual summit, he's stopping by Honolulu, Hawaii. The island state is home to the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, which covers about half of the Earth's surface, including the Korean Peninsula, where some 28,500 U.S. troops are stationed. According to Yoon, research fellow at the Korea Institute for Defense Analyses, the president's visit to the command headquarters on Tuesday will not only prove the strength of the 70-year-old South Korea-US alliance, but Seoul's growing role as a contributor to global security.
It underscored the South Korea's dedication to countering threats from North Korea and China, while aligning with broader international defense strategies. By engaging with both Indo-Pacific Command and NATO, President Yoon highlights the interconnected nature of Indo-Pacific and transatlantic security, promoting a comprehensive defense strategy. This conveys a message of solidarity and cooperation with the key military alliances, reinforcing South Korea's position as a pivotal security partner committed to maintaining stability and peace on a global scale.
Controlling the US's key strategic assets, such as aircraft carriers, nuclear submarines and bombers, the Indo-Pacific Command plays a crucial role in enabling military cooperation between Seoul, Washington and Tokyo to deter North Korea's nuclear and missile threat to regional security. Three-way activities have increased since plans to institutionalize trilateral security cooperation were agreed upon at Camp David last year.
3 countries have conducted more frequent and complex military drills, demonstrating a unified stance against a regional threat like North Korea's missile test. There has been a notable increase in real-time information sharing, bolstering their collective situational awareness and response capabilities. Additionally, collaborative efforts in missile defense have intensified, focusing on interoperability and combined defense strategies.
Given the mounting threat posed by North Korea and its recent treaty with Russia on military cooperation, as well as suspected weapons delivery, Yu says the 3 Indo-Pacific partners have space to collaborate further on the maritime front.
The navies of South Korea, the US, and Japan could enhance joint maritime patrols and surveillance to monitor and deter illicit activities. Strengthening interoperability through regular advanced naval exercises would improve coordinated responses to any threat. Establishing a shared intelligence network would ensure real-time information exchange, which is crucial for tracking adversarial movement.
President Yoon's office says the leaders' visit to Honolulu and Washington, D.C. is aimed at strengthening South Korea's security through global cooperation. Based on this solidarity, Seoul will aim to expand its scope of security cooperation to economic and technological partnerships with like-minded countries. 오수영, Arirang News, Honolulu.
President Yoon and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida may meet on the sidelines of the NATO Summit this week. That's according to a South Korean presidential official on Monday in Honolulu. The official said that Yoon is likely to meet with leaders from 10 or more countries while he is in Washington, D.C. to attend a multilateral summit, including Germany, Canada, the Netherlands, Sweden, Finland, the Czech Republic, the United Kingdom, and Japan. The meeting between Yoon and Kishida would be their second summit this year amid growing concerns over Russia and North Korea's recent treaty to aid each other militarily in the face of aggression. The official added there will be various statements criticizing Moscow and Pyongyang at the NATO summit, including documents by NATO, the United States, and 4 Indo-Pacific partner countries, including South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. NATO's summit this week takes place as a crucial time as Ukraine continues to fight against Russian aggression, while leaders are expected to seek ways to deal with China. Our foreign affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji explains more about what to expect and what's different this year.
The North Atlantic Treaty Organization was founded in 1949 to counter the Soviet Union during the Cold War. 12 countries, including the US, Canada, and 10 from Europe, signed the treaty at the time. This year, NATO marks 75 years since its founding and has now grown into the world's biggest military organization with 32 members. The leaders of these member states are set to meet this week in Washington, D.C. for 3 days, starting Tuesday. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said the summit, which comes at a critical time for European security, will focus on 3 major topics. First is providing more support to Ukraine. As the NATO chief arrived at the Pentagon in Washington on Monday local time, he said Russia must accept a solution where Ukraine prevails as a sovereign nation.
At the summit, we'll make decisions to further strengthen our support to Ukraine, and Russia must understand that they're not able to wait those out.
He also said the leaders will also address boosting NATO's defense and deterrence, as well as investment, noting that he welcomes a record of 23 allies making the decision to invest at least 2% of their GDP in defense. Also on the agenda will be NATO's efforts to strengthen its global partnerships, especially in the Indo-Pacific region.
We also have the leaders of our Asia-Pacific partners, Australia, New Zealand, Japan and South Korea, present at the summit. That demonstrates that our security is not regional, our security is global.
Last week, Japanese media reported that NATO is planning to release its first joint document on expanding security cooperation with 4 Asia-Pacific nations, South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand, in an apparent move to counter military threats from China. The document is expected to contain detailed information on cooperation frameworks between NATO and the 4 countries, including cybersecurity and disinformation. This week's summit will be Stoltenberg's last as he hands over the reins to the outgoing Dutch Prime Minister, Mark Rutte. Last month, NATO appointed Rutte as its new Secretary General to lead the organization starting in October. Meanwhile, the summit is the first since Sweden and Finland formally joined NATO. Sweden officially became the group's 32nd member in March, and Finland joined the organization in April 2023. Arirang News.
And just a day before this high-stakes meeting in Washington, Russia conducted airstrikes across Ukraine on Monday, leaving hundreds of casualties, including at a major children's hospital. Cha Yoon-kyung has the latest.
Russia launched large-scale airstrikes across Ukraine on Monday before U.S. President Joe Biden welcomes NATO leaders to Washington. Citing Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, CNN reported that at least 37 people were killed and 170 others injured. The strikes damaged nearly 100 buildings, including multiple schools and a maternity hospital. Among the facilities that were hit was the country's main children's hospital, Akhmedit in Kyiv, which left civilians buried under rubble. As search and rescue operations continued into Tuesday, Kyiv Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said that 7 of the 16 injured are children. Another hospital was also struck in the Ukrainian capital, as authorities say at least 27 people were killed in the capital alone. The Ukrainian Air Force says that cruise missiles, guided and air-launched ballistic missiles were used in the deadly airstrikes, adding that 30 of the 38 were shot down. Monday's attack targeting Kyiv came after about 4 months since the last one. Klitschko condemned the Russian attack, calling it one of the worst since the Russian invasion. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky during a joint press conference with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk in Warsaw, Russia, as well as Russian President Vladimir Putin, who ordered the airstrikes, must be held accountable for what he called an act of terror. The United Nations Security Council will be set to hold an emergency meeting. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
North Korea and Russia's suspected military collaboration appears to be in motion, with a North Korean delegation of military education officials leaving Pyongyang on Monday to visit Russia. According to Russian state media outlet TASS on Tuesday, when asked about the purpose of the visit, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov declined to answer, but said that Russia is aiming to develop and deepen relations with North Korea in all possible areas as an extension of the agreement signed after Vladimir Putin's visit to North Korea. The North state-run Korean Central News Agency reported on Monday that a delegation led by Kim Geum-chul, president of the Kim Il-sung Military University, had left for Russia. A South Korean Unification Ministry official told reporters on Tuesday that if there are any tangible military exchanges as a follow-up, the UN Security Council Sanctions Committee will determine whether there have been any violations. On local politics, President Yoon today vetoed the bill led by the opposition calling for a special investigation into the death of a Marine last summer. The top office said it's been politically motivated. Our political correspondent Lee Si-yu explains.
President Yoon Suk-yeol vetoed on Tuesday the bill calling for a special prosecutor's investigation into the death of a young Marine in 2023, returning it to the National Assembly for a reconsideration. This comes 5 days after the Assembly passed the opposition-led bill amid a ruling People Power Party walkout and protest. In an official announcement, the presidential office said the bill must be withdrawn following the police announcing the results of their investigation the day before, which revealed substantial truth and who was responsible. It added, while delivering consolatory words to the Marine's family, that there should be no more politically motivated abuse of the unfortunate death. This marks the 15th time that President Yoon has exercised his presidential right to veto, and the first since the launch of the current 22nd National Assembly. The president turned down an earlier version of the special probe bill passed by the previous 21st Assembly in May. The bill was returned to the parliament the same month, but was dropped after failing to meet the threshold for a second approval, which is majority attendance and 2/3 or more approvals from lawmakers present at the plenary session. The contentious bill calls for an investigation into the death of a Marine Corps corporal, surnamed Che, who died during last summer's flood rescue operations, and alleged government interference with a preliminary investigation into the case. Since it was passed last week, the ruling People Power Party and the cabinet have requested the president reject the bill. President Yoon, currently on a trip to the U.S., delivered the veto from Hawaii. Immediately following the rejection, the opposition parties at the National Assembly held a rally to protest it. They are now vowing for a second approval that can overcome the presidential veto threshold. But the ruling party said the opposition should stop using the case for political strife and that the presidential rejection was an obvious decision considering the bill's violation of the Constitution. Lee Si-yu, Arirang News.
The government will ask car manufacturers to seek ways to attach cameras near pedals to identify the exact causes of repetitive car accidents here in South Korea, allegedly from sudden acceleration or brake failure. The Transport Ministry said on Tuesday it plans to advise domestic and foreign car manufacturers to attach cameras to vehicles sold here. But it added that it will not be mandatory, as this could raise car costs and lead to trade conflicts. It is also reviewing ways to induce drivers to install the cameras and reduce car insurance payments for those who do so. In the U.S., President Joe Biden has called for unity within his party for his re-election campaign as more Democrats call for him to step aside following the recent debate fallout. Moon Hae-ryun covers his remarks.
U.S. President Joe Biden is fighting back against criticism of his mental fitness and viability following a poor debate performance against Donald Trump last month. In a 2-page letter sent to congressional Democrats on Monday, Biden emphasized that he is firmly committed to staying in the race and to beating Donald Trump. He added that it is time to come together, move forward as a unified party, and that any weakening of resolve would only serve to help Trump. On the same day, he also called into MSNBC's Morning Joe program, where he claimed that he had the support of the average Democrat and challenged his critics in the party. The White House press secretary denied speculation that the president is being treated for Parkinson's disease, while other party figures such as Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries voiced support for Biden after 4 congressmen reportedly held a group call with him, urging their current candidate to step aside. The Democratic caucus meeting is due to take place on Tuesday for the first time since the June 27 debate and could prove a pivotal moment for the path forward. According to CNN, Biden has personally reached out to several Democrats to reassure them that he is aware of the current concerns within the party. He is also set to meet virtually with the Congressional Black Caucus, his strongest bloc of supporters in Congress, as well as members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. The members of the CBC have defended Biden since the debate, with black voters being key to Biden's campaign as he chose the first black female vice president and nominated the first black woman to be a Supreme Court justice. With just over a month left until the Democratic National Convention, during which the party's presidential candidate is officially nominated, and 4 months until the U.S. presidential elections, this is a critical period for Biden's campaign. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
The 2024 Paris Summer Olympics are nearly 2 weeks away. Over 260 athletes and supporters in Team Korea gathered together and reaffirmed their strong determination. Our Choi Soo-young went to the venue.
The time for the athletes' hard work to shine is slightly over 2 weeks away. Team Korea gathered on Tuesday for an inaugural ceremony for the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris. The ceremony marks the official launching of the national team, and the former weightlifting star of the Beijing Olympics and now the Vice Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism, Chang Mi-ran, encouraged all the athletes.
I know how much effort the athletes have put in to get to this point, and I believe that all those hard training hours will lead to great results in this Olympics. I hope all our athletes stay strong.
Prime Minister Han Duk-soo also participated in the ceremony for support.
This Olympics of great significance because the first where athletes and spectators come together since the end of the COVID-19 pandemic. Your time is approaching. The whole nation will fervently support all the athletes. The government will also provide full support. To all the athletes, I wish you the best of success.
The more than pentathlon athletes who recently achieved excellent results at the World Championships in China also pledged to do their best to bring pride to the nation.
Of course, we aim for the gold medal. We are sweating and training hard to achieve that goal. I hope that all the effort we have put in will bring good results in the upcoming Paris Olympics.
Yoon Hyun-ji, a judoka competing in her second Olympics, pledged to trust herself and bring joy to the nation.
This is my second Olympics. During the Tokyo Olympics back then, I only focused on preparing to win a medal. However, this time around, regardless of the outcome, I focus on my training without thinking about medal colors. All I can say is that I will do my best.
In the upcoming 2024 Paris Olympics this summer, around 10,500 athletes from 206 countries will compete in 32 sports. Team Korea will comprise 144 athletes to participate in 22 sports, aiming to secure a place in the top 15 overall rankings. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News.
Tonight, heavy rain is expected around the central region. Therefore, a preliminary heavy rain warning is issued for most parts of the country. This heavy rain will fall strongly. Early tomorrow morning, monsoon rain is expected to expand to the southern parts of the country. Heavy rain of more than 150 millimeters is expected in southern areas of Gyeonggi-do province and Chungcheong-do provinces, parts of Jeollanam-do province and Gyeongsang-do provinces. More than 120 is expected for the Seoul metropolitan area and Jeollabuk-do province until tomorrow. Tomorrow, most areas will start off at least 22 degrees Celsius. It will move up to 30 in Seoul, Chuncheon and Jeju, 29 degrees. In the second half of the week, this rainy season will continue in the south and on Jeju Island. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world. That's all we have for today. Thank you for watching. Arirang News will be back at 9 a.m. Korea time.